The colony-wide emergency broadcast system hadn't been breached since the early days of settlement. Yet now, every screen, personal device, and public display simultaneously activated as Vex's decrypted evidence streamed to both human and Myriadian populations. Communications blackouts failed as the resistance network ensured the signal persisted. From their position at the old terraforming station, Jace and Vex watched chaos unfold across Everfall Colony. Military units mobilized, some racing to suppress the broadcast, others turning against consortium facilities as the truth became undeniable. "They're coming for us," Jace said, monitoring security channels. "Both sides." Vex's compound eyes reflected the multiple screens before them. "And some are fighting for us. Look." Groups of citizens, humans and Meridians together, had taken to the streets. The hidden population of mixed families and sympathizers from Confluence had emerged, standing as living proof that coexistence was possible. "The consortium representatives are attempting emergency evacuation," Vex noted, watching transport patterns on the colony grid. "Not happening." Jace activated the final part of their plan, the terraforming station's override protocols, grounding all outbound vessels. The door behind them burst open. A human security officer and Myriadian enforcer entered, weapons raised. "Step away from the controls," the human ordered. "Have you seen the evidence?" Jace asked calmly. "Our orders are to detain you both," the Myriadian replied, though uncertainty colored his clicks. "Your orders come from those who sacrificed your comrades," Vex said, stepping forward despite Jace's protective gesture. "How many friends have you lost to manufactured conflicts?" Hesitation flickered across both officers' faces. Outside, the sounds of protest grew louder. "Make your choice," Jace said quietly, "but make it knowing the truth." After a tense moment, the human officer lowered his weapon. "My brother died in the agricultural sector bombing. The evidence shows that was consortium orchestrated." The Myriadian followed suit. "What do you require of us?" "Help us broadcast the final data packet," Vex replied. "The consortium's contingency plans, they'll attempt to trigger conflict points to distract from their extraction." The next hours passed in a blur of activity as resistance grew. The consortium's leadership was detained by joint human Myriadian security forces. Emergency councils formed, including representatives from the previously hidden mixed communities. As dusk fell, Jace found Vex at the observation deck overlooking the colony. For the first time since settlement, the segregation barriers between sectors were being dismantled. "It will take time," she said, her voice tinged with both hope and weariness. "Generations of prejudice don't disappear overnight." "But the lie that sustained it has," Jace replied, standing beside her. "That's a beginning." They watched in silence as mixed groups helped clear debris from the day's conflicts, working together toward something new. "The Council has offered us diplomatic positions," Vex said, "representatives of what's possible." "Is that what we are?" Jace asked, turning to face her. "A political symbol." "We're more than that." Her luminescence brightened in the pattern he now recognized as profound emotion. "We're the first of something unprecedented." "No more precedents," Jace said softly, taking her hands in his. "Just possibilities." Below them, the colony began to transform, not overnight, not without struggle, but with a truth that could no longer be denied. Different species, designed by evolution for different worlds, choosing connection over division. As the dual moons rose over Everfall Colony, Jace and Vex remained at the observation deck, witnesses to the beginning of a new chapter, not just for the settlement, but for themselves. Their improbable bond, forged in crisis and deepened through understanding, stood as living proof that the boundaries between worlds were perhaps not as fixed as everyone had believed. "What comes next?" Vex asked. "We write it together," Jace replied, as the distance between their different worlds closed once more. Ambassador Crix's compound eyes reflected the amber glow of honey as Olivia carefully extracted a frame from one of her observation hives. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside her sanctuary, a different kind of storm was brewing, one of curiosity. "The bees create this substance?" Vox asked, leaning closer to observe the golden liquid. The translator struggled with the alien's tone, but Olivia detected genuine interest. Yes, they collect nectar from flowers, process it in their bodies, and store it as food, Olivia explained, slicing off a small section of comb. We call it honey. It's primarily a carbohydrate energy source, but it also has antimicrobial properties and trace nutrients. Diego gave her a warning look. They hadn't planned to share Earth's food with the aliens, but General Thompson nodded slightly. At this point, what did they have to lose? Would you like to try it? Olivia offered, holding out the honeycomb. The aliens conferred in their clicking language before Ambassador Crick stepped forward. Our biological analysis indicates no immediate toxicity for our species. I will sample this. Honey. The room fell silent as Crix extended a slender appendage to collect a drop of the golden liquid. When it touched what passed for his mouth, his entire exoskeleton shimmered in an iridescent wave. Extraordinary, he whispered, the translator barely catching the word. What happened next took everyone by surprise. Trell, the most dismissive of the aliens, suddenly collapsed to the floor, his exoskeleton dulling to an alarming gray. He's been ill since our arrival, Zin explained urgently. Something in your atmosphere. Without hesitation, Olivia knelt beside the fallen alien. Diego, get the medicinal honey, the manuka. Diego rushed to a small refrigerator in the corner and returned with a darker jar of honey. Olivia looked up at Crix. This variety has stronger antimicrobial properties. May I? After a moment's hesitation, Crix nodded. Olivia carefully applied the honey to what appeared to be breathing spiracles along Trell's thorax. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, gradually, color began returning to Trell's exoskeleton, first in patches, then in waves of brilliant blue. The alien's eyes flickered and reopened. What happened? Trell asked weakly. It appears, Crix said slowly, that we have severely underestimated the significance of these small creatures and their productions. By morning, as the storm cleared, news of the incident had spread through both human and alien communication channels. General Thompson looked shell-shocked as he watched Trell, now fully recovered, examining the bee hives with rapt attention. Dr. Wright, he whispered, what exactly happened last night? Olivia shook her head. I'm not entirely sure. The honey seems to have properties that specifically benefit their physiology. It's unprecedented. Diego was already analyzing samples with their alien counterparts. Their biochemistry is silicon-based rather than carbon-based, he reported. Something in the honey, possibly the glucose structure or trace minerals, facilitates oxygen transfer in their respiratory system. Ambassador Crix approached Olivia with a new demeanor, one of respect. Dr. Wright, we must revise our assessment of your world. This substance, this honey, it does not exist anywhere else in our explored galaxy. It's just bee vomit, Olivia said with a nervous laugh, immediately regretting her poor attempt at humor. But Crix didn't seem offended. These creatures transform simple plant excretions into a substance with remarkable properties. Our scientists believe it could address a degenerative condition affecting many of our species. We wish to establish a formal exchange. General Thompson stepped forward eagerly. We'd be happy to discuss trade terms. Not with you, Crix interrupted, turning back to Olivia. With the bee expert, she understands what we need. As Olivia's eyes widened in panic, she realized her life had just become infinitely more complicated. Somehow, she'd gone from studying bees to negotiating humanity's first interstellar trade agreement, all because of honey. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she wondered if the bees had planned this all along. The United Nations Apiary Committee, a hastily assembled group that hadn't existed a week ago, gathered around the conference table. Olivia sat at its head, flanked by Diego and Jackson Harris, Earth's most renowned diplomat, who'd been summoned from retirement for this unprecedented situation. They're requesting access to 50,000 hives, Jackson stated, reviewing the alien proposal. At 65, his distinguished silver hair and calm demeanor projected confidence Olivia desperately needed. That's approximately 200 metric tons of honey annually. Impossible, Olivia replied firmly. Earth's bee populations are already under stress from pesticides, habitat loss, and climate change. We can't risk destabilizing them further. Ambassador Crix and his delegation sat across from them, their posture unreadable to human eyes. Dr. Wright, Jackson said quietly, The Proximans are offering faster-than-light travel technology in exchange. Do you understand what that would mean for humanity? Olivia felt the weight of responsibility crushing her. I understand perfectly, but I also understand that without bees, Earth's ecosystem collapses. No amount of alien technology will help us if our planet can't sustain life. The tension in the room was palpable. 3 days of negotiations had yielded little progress. The alien delegation had already transmitted news of honey's healing properties across their vast network, and according to their reports, multiple species were eager to access this miracle substance. Perhaps, Diego suggested, breaking the silence, we could propose a controlled production increase, using advanced pollination techniques and establishing new conservation areas. Jackson nodded thoughtfully. A compromise, 10% of what they're asking, with gradual increases as we establish sustainable methods. Crix's mandibles clicked in what the humans now recognized as frustration. The Galactic Council expects results. Other worlds are already questioning why we grant Earth exclusive negotiation rights. Because we're the only ones with bees, Olivia countered, and we're the only ones who understand how to maintain their populations. As the formal session concluded for the day, Olivia found herself alone with Jackson in the conference room, both mentally exhausted. You're doing remarkably well for someone with no diplomatic training, he admitted, loosening his tie. Most career negotiators would have caved by now. Olivia smiled weakly. Bees are excellent negotiators themselves. The entire hive functions through complex communication and compromise. Is that why you study them? Jackson asked, his eyes softening as he considered her. Their social structure. Partly, she admitted, but mostly because they're overlooked miracles, tiny creatures that shape entire ecosystems while most humans barely notice them. Well, the galaxy is certainly noticing them now, Jackson said with a rueful laugh. Their conversation was interrupted when Ambassador Crix entered unexpectedly, without his usual entourage. Dr. Wright, Ambassador Harris, he acknowledged. I wish to speak, unofficially. Olivia and Jackson exchanged surprised glances. My superiors demand results, Crix continued, his translated voice softer than usual. But I have studied your bees as you suggested. I understand now their fragility and importance. Then you understand why we can't agree to your terms, Olivia said. Perhaps there is another way, Crix suggested. My species has technology that could help strengthen your bee populations, protect them from disease, improve their resilience to environmental changes. Jackson leaned forward, instantly alert. That's not in any of your official offers. It isn't, Crix agreed, but perhaps it should be, a partnership rather than a transaction. As Crix outlined his idea, Olivia felt a glimmer of hope. The next morning, she presented a counterproposal to the full delegation. A joint research initiative aimed at strengthening Earth's bee populations while carefully harvesting honey for extraterrestrial use. And for the first time since negotiations began, both sides seemed genuinely pleased. Later, as Olivia and Jackson walked through her apiary, she caught him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite identify. What? She asked self-consciously. Nothing, he replied. I'm just thinking that those aliens might not be the only ones who have underestimated you.